So when you start looking at varieties, you're getting serious about your production system. You don't just go and buy an unnamed corn hybrid. You are going after specific traits, things that you want on your farm.
When you're selecting a small grain, you want to think of lots of different things. And the first thing that you really want to think is, what is the market for this small grain? So when you look at a variety trial, and let's say you're the type of grower that wants to grow a food grade crop potentially, what you need to look at in that variety trial is not just yield and standability, but you really need to be looking at that test weight ranking, right? So in order to sell a food grade crop, millers want a test weight of 36 pounds or better. So when you're looking at a variety trial, you really want to look at those heaviest test weight oats and select a variety based on that. Another thing to think about is, as you go further south, the probability of having heat and moisture sooner in the season is really high. So if you're further south in Iowa, maybe you want to look at planting an earlier season oat. Maybe that's something you should think about. If you're on the northern, in the northernmost part of Iowa, and it's going to stay cooler longer into the season, then maybe you can look at a fuller season oat. And there's a greater potential to have that high test weight. So again, you want to think about the market you're selling oats to, right? Your end user, and you want to select a variety based on that.
So we planted 5 different varieties of oats on our farm this year. The first 12-acre field that we planted this spring, we knew that we wanted to not only raise oats there this year, but we wanted to establish a stand of forage that we could continue raising and harvesting in the years that follow. So we looked for an oat variety that would be noted for being a good companion or nurse crop to a forage crop. We found that characteristic in one hybrid of oats called Sabre. We planted Sabre oats on that field. We underseeded it with some alfalfa and some fescue and some orchard grass. On the other field, we split that up amongst 4 other varieties of oats. We had some Shelby 427s, we had some Hayden oats, we had some Natty oats, which are very similar to Shelby 427, and then we had some Dion oats. All of those oats, starting with the Sabre, were different maturities. So like the Sabre was considered an early season variety, and then as we got into some of the other varieties, we went into mid-season varieties and then into some later season oats like the Dion. And that allowed us to spread our oat harvest out over about 3 weeks' time. So it made really good use of the resources that we had for harvesting equipment, and it would give us the time we knew that we would need to not only swath and harvest the grain, but also bale and harvest the straw. One thing we had learned in 2015, growing a large number of oats for the first time, is that harvesting and dealing with the production output from a field of oats is far different than dealing with similar production you would get off of the same number of acres from a corn field or a soybean field. You're able to harvest and process those grains much more quickly per acre than you are with a crop like oats. So we knew we needed to spread out our varieties so that we would have a wide enough window of time to allow us to manage that, and that seemed to work out pretty good this year.
Variety selection is a big thing when it comes to that as well, and there's a couple varieties of oats that seem to work well for our systems. Dion oats is what we're harvesting right now, and then also Spurs oats seem to be a good mix for the fertility programs that we use. And Spurs are a little earlier crop, I believe, a little earlier variety, and a little shorter. Dion can be a little taller, a little longer season. We're not seeing it this year. I wouldn't consider my oats very tall this year, but they can get taller, the Dion ones can.
This year we planted Shelby 427 oats. They've got pretty good test weight, and we were trying for the food market. So I wish they would stand a little bit better, but with the test weight factor, that's kind of the major thing we look at.
For us, I wanted a large seeded rye variety that was going to give me good grain yield, more uniform emergence, and more uniform flowering time because I wanted to time my fungicide right. The VNS ryes, of course, you don't know what you're getting, and so a lot of them will flower at different times. So you'll have 2 or 3 different growth stages in the same field at the same time, and it really screws up spraying. The fungicide timing is critical. You've got like a 5-day window, and if you don't catch that window right, you're wasting your money. So I was going for something that was more consistent. I wanted something that had a very good standability because I didn't want lodging. I wanted something I could really pour the fertilizer to and get high yield because, again, I'm trying to grow seed for my own use but also to sell, so I wanted to have as much seed as possible. So a high yielding variety was very important.